Hatha Yoga. Hello, this is Shores of Infinity, Chris speaking with a video about Hatha Yoga. What is Hatha Yoga really? Most people think they know what yoga or Hatha Yoga is, but they really don't. I thought I made a video about this already, but I discovered that I haven't. So this is it. Please like and subscribe. And now we continue. What outside of India, what 99% of all people mean when they say yoga, they mean a form of Hatha Yoga. They mean some form of stretching, asanas, pranayama, breathing, and so on. No matter if you practice Ashtanga Yoga or Bikram Yoga, Shivananda Yoga, Kundalini Yoga, Ayanga Yoga, Shiva Yoga, all these things, they're sub-forms of Hatha Yoga. Yoga means reunification with the divine, with the everything, with the infinite, with the absolute. And Hatha Yoga means reunification with the divine through the body, by means of mastering the body. And we do this in Hatha Yoga by breathing and asanas, certain positions. The same we do in Qi Gong, for example. It's the same thing. It's firstly about the body and secondly about the energy, about the vital or subtle body, the meridians, the nadis, whatever you call it. So by controlling the breath and also the life force that courses through our body, through the nadis, we control the body. And to facilitate this, we have the asanas or methods like chakra healing, for example, and the chakra system in general, and in some styles, the idea of the Kundalini snake rising up. All of these are parts of Hatha Yoga. When someone from India or Sri Lanka says yoga, or someone like Sri Aurobindo or Meher Baba or in the Vedas, or I, for example, use the word yoga, it means something different. Hatha Yoga is useful for cleaning the body and for cleaning the energy system of the vital, subtle body. This is helpful in later stages of awakening, enlightenment, higher consciousness, blah, 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 so that you can actually receive the energy that is raining down from the divine. This is usually too exhausting. It's too much. All this bliss you heard about, it's not so easy to stand. It's actually quite a shock the first time you feel it. And you don't know what to do with all this energy or whatever you want to call it. And therefore, Hatha Yoga and Qi Gong is very good. It's a good preparation. But in my experience, and also in the experience of Sri Aurobindo and others, it's neither necessary nor really effective. It takes too long. The same goes for Kriya Yoga and Kundalini Yoga, which are combinations of Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga. Yoga itself just means reunification with the divine and has nothing to do with asanas or breathing by itself. And yoga has different styles, different methods to arrive at this unification through the body, through the emotions, through the mind, through the willpower, through selfless work, through devotion, through love, and so on. And they all have names, these forms of yoga. Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and so on. Hatha Yoga is one of many styles, but the first people who brought Hatha Yoga to the West wanted to make it easy for us, and also the first people who learned it, they were very happy that it has something to do with the body. It's something you can see, something you can feel, something you can get a grip on. So it's very easy for people to see, okay, breathing, body, stretching, we know this more or less. Plus, we can practice it without the spiritual aspect and without the meditation. Most fitness centers offer yoga classes with just the physical aspect. There's nothing spiritual about it. So it's only the shell, the empty shell of Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga is also a spiritual tradition by means of the body and the breathing and the nadis. But its aim is clearly a spiritual one. And it's one of many yoga styles, and it's just, for Westerners, it was the one that was the easiest to understand. While Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, for example, they're very difficult to understand. There's nothing to understand. It's not about understanding. Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are more or less the opposite of what the Western civilization is about. The Western civilization is about ambition. It's the opposite of love and selflessness. You don't have to be loving and selfless to practice Hatha Yoga. And thus also there's a big trap here. You can say, okay, but I'm doing yoga. I'm doing a spiritual discipline. I'm already working on my enlightenment. What do you want? Well, the way Hatha Yoga is taught in the West, there's nothing spiritual about it. And even if you go to India and learn it there properly, there's no guarantee of any spiritual success. It's just too slow, especially in the way we live nowadays. It might have worked a few hundred or thousand years ago, but now it's not enough. We're too distracted. So for everyone who listens to this channel regularly, in the future, please know, when I use the word yoga, it has nothing to do with Hatha Yoga, except I say Hatha Yoga. Yoga just means the Vedic tradition of enlightenment. Thus, when Sri Aurobindo also uses the word yoga, and for example, one of his most famous books is called A Synthesis of Yoga, it's a synthesis of all yogas. And even he left out Hatha Yoga because he said it's too slow. But if you practice it, if you want to use it to manage the energies flowing through you, then pranayama is very important, the breath. And in my view, even more important is that you can feel and heal the chakras and nadis in your body. The nadis are the meridians, like in acupuncture, where the life force flows through. And the chakras are between 7 and 20 chakras, however you want to count it, energy centers. So Hatha Yoga can help you to transition from the gross sphere, from the material plane, to the vital or subtle sphere or plane or body. Our aim is the mental body and the connection to the supramental and to Satchidananda. But first things first we have to get used to the subtle or vital body, which is all about energy. We have to go through that first. We have to get to know our subtle body first. And for that, Hatha Yoga and Qi Gong and similar things like Reiki and mind flow and Theta healing and so on, they're very useful because you learn how to feel the energy and how to unblock things. If there's an energy blockage, for example, we talked about it recently on the Facebook site, the first chakra, the root chakra, or the first two, they're often blocked. They have to be unblocked. And lastly, there was a question recently if I could make a video about Kundalini Yoga. But Kundalini Yoga is a combination of Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga. I already made a video about Raja Yoga. This is about Hatha Yoga. If you feel something rising up from your lower chakra to your higher chakra, which causes awakening and illumination, That is what some traditions have called the Kundalini. But don't look for it. It's a distraction. It's a waste of time to look for something or try to bring it about. If it happens to you, fine. If it doesn't happen to you, if you don't feel it, it's also fine. It will manifest another way. So many people are looking for this, waiting for the surge of energy to rise up from the sacrum to the head. This can be very uncomfortable. Very, very uncomfortable. And it can be not useful too. It can be even, can cause mental health problems. Or it can really cause awakening or enlightenment, but don't try to bring it about. It's just one thing, one method these things have been described as and by, and for some people it has felt like that, but it doesn't have to feel like that for everyone. So it's not very important. It's not a method that helps a lot of people. I know very, 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 very few who got anywhere with Hatha Yoga or Raja Yoga. I do know some, but not many. But if you feel this is the right way for you, please continue or start. If you have the strong conviction or feeling that Hatha Yoga is for you or Kundalini Yoga is for you, why not? Then for you it is the right way, or an aspect of the right way, part of the right way. I also practice it for some things. I know what it's good for in my, in parenthesis, system, in this thing I call the Chris. I know what Qi Gong and Hatha Yoga and so I use for. So I do some asanas and some Qi Gong every day, in the morning and the evening. For me it's useful. It keeps me healthy, physically healthy and sometimes also mentally stable. And I have learned to feel blockages when they come into existence or when they have existed already for some hours or days. I know that something is wrong. I know how to scan for it. And now I know how to heal it and release it and unblock it. That's super useful. Very, very useful. If it's part of your individual path. So there's no harm in trying it out. And for some people it even leads to awakening or enlightenment. But I wouldn't recommend only to do Hatha Yoga. And please, for the last time, yoga doesn't equal Hatha Yoga. Yoga doesn't equal asanas. Yoga doesn't equal pranayama. They're just many, many tools on the path. Thank you very much. Thank you to all my Patreons. Thank you for becoming a Patreon. Thank you for liking and subscribing and listening and sharing the videos with your friends, and see you soon.